sunny Norfolk, Massachusetts. Welcome to Keeping It Positive. I'm William Nineveh,
And I'm Patrick Quinn, and we are the
the
Big
Big
Bossmen.
Bossmen. Hey, Patrick, this month, I don't know what we're going to talk about. You got any ideas?
Yeah, so I have a little cheat sheet of ideas to go through, and
Okay.
this is
What do you
kind of at
got?
the bottom of the list.
Oh,
It's towards the bottom because it was a little while ago. You had interviewed me about my origin story, right? How I got into the business, and
yeah.
so I think it would be good for us to talk about you and how
Oh,
you
really?
started. And because you and I have talked about it and the challenges and the big wins that you had along the way and turning points in the company and all that. And I think that those kind of stories in general are fascinating, just to
Okay.
hear.
I
And
hope everyone else will like to hear them too, but if that's
some
where you
people
want to go,
will.
yeah.
Some people will, some people won't. But I want to hear about the very, very beginning, when the very first time that you thought, I'm gonna start an environmental company. Because that was
Okay.
you were the founder of this company way back
Yeah.
when, almost 30 years ago, 25 years ago, 30 years ago.
Yeah. Next year be 30 years, right? 1994 to 2024. So
So
that'll be 30.
before you get into the story, how old were you then?
Let's see. I was 27 years old.
Okay.
So I didn't know much. Really didn't know much at all. Like I knew a little bit about environmental services because, obviously I was working in the industry from the time I had gotten out of school, but um, I really didn't know anything about business. And looking back at it, I see how little I did know. So
It's okay. We all start somewhere, right?
yeah, absolutely. And
So
so I had a laptop and worked on some business planning, some ideas. Someday I have to find that old either disc, or hopefully I can find a paper version.
was this a floppy disk?
I think it was. They don't
What
even,
was last time? When was the last time
people
you even saw one?
people don't even know what that is. If there are younger guys, younger people listening to this right now, they don't even know what a floppy disk is. It was like 3.5 inch. It wasn't the big guys really floppy, but it was like a 3.5 inch type memory
Gotcha. So
device.
not the big guys, like the
Yeah,
big rectangle ones they used to have. You're talking about the ones that were like that, the
yeah,
hard ones,
like a
not the
hard
ones that you could
hard
like
type of
shake.
plastic. Yeah,
Yeah. All right. So walk us through it. You what? You sat at your table and wrote it all out, or how'd that
pretty
go?
much. Yeah, I was always like to stay kind of organized, so I put together some business planning ideas, and um, really it all started at a kitchen table. Kitchen table, maybe a folding chair. I don't even think I had the set of the table, and then I had basically a lot of ideas and a dream. And the next thing you know, was going door to door. Right, so a lot of the early on days was a lot of sales activities, like kind of like that cold calling. It was a much different technique back then, I think, than today. Where today we do a lot of branding, and our marketing is like a doer seller type model. Back then, I had to just get the word out, like who we were. So I would go door to door. I'd pull up into an industrial park, like we're in now, and I would just park my truck, get out, and just walk door to door, and
Yeah.
walk into a building and introduce myself and hand a business card to the receptionist and ask if I could talk to somebody that um, was of importance or making decisions there. Sometimes I would get invited in to talk, and other times I would get rejected.
Yeah.
And so the rejection, it was something to get accepted to and get used to, and
Right.
not let it get you down, really. Like, so if that's
Right.
that's like something that I'd like to pass on to our audience. Don't let anything get you down. Like, so in my brain, every rejection I got, I said, okay, so that's one less rejection that I'll deal with. I'm getting closer to a yes, right? I just
Right.
kind of use that to fuel me, and it was kind of fun, like just meeting new people and meeting companies and getting out there, and that's really the really the start of like of where it came
Right.
from.
The start
Start,
of the networking,
yeah.
right? Getting your
And,
name out there, all that stuff.
and as time went on, it got easier and easier to do.
Right.
And that like today, it's much different today. Like our doer seller model that we have is much different than early on days of starting a company.
Right.
But
Now,
it's
before we
but
get too far, staying in the very beginning before we kind of transition to the middle, so to speak.
sure.
Um, I don't know, it might have been like 6 months ago or so, but we were joking around about like the very beginning of the company, and you had pulled up your income for the year, and it was like, I think it was like $7 you had made in like your first year of
Oh,
business or something.
yeah.
Do you remember like it was really low? Now, can you tell me like how that felt? Like, you have no money coming in, you're trying.
Well, getting started as an entrepreneur, I I kind of had the thought that okay, I'm going to need to tap into my savings. So I knew I had some money put aside. That money, I didn't realize how fast it would go with very little income coming. um,
Fast.
yeah, so the first year in business, our revenue was well under six figures.
Yeah.
If
It wasn't even, I think it was like 7 grand or something total gross. And you had like, it was literally like a few dollars in profit, like
right,
on the tax statement.
I think it was so it probably cost the CPA more money than maybe we made that year.
More money than's in your checking account.
Yeah, so that was that's just the kind of way it was back then.
Yeah.
It was the beginning. So
And you didn't have a lot of equipment, right? Like I know, I think that you might even have a few of them out in the shop where you had magnets that you used to put on the trucks too, right? Like
we
I
did.
saw a light bulb just go off.
Yeah, so having a magnet for the first pickup truck, and the pickup truck was a Toyota, and the magnet just went on the truck, and that was the way it was lettered. It worked
Yeah,
out well at the time.
right.
And going through that whole startup process, that was really kind of a fun time looking back at it now. Yeah, it was fun. But since then, we've obviously kind of grown into like process creation and putting core leadership in place, and just kind of like
Right.
changed the whole company from back then till today, 30 years later.
Right. Yeah, you're not running from your landlord anymore to hide from rent, right? Like,
Oh no, I wasn't gonna bring that topic
oh, you
up.
knew I was
But
bringing it up.
okay, but I shared that with you before, and now the world knows. But so that apartment that the company kind of started at the kitchen table, and I'd go back to that table and write out emails. And back then I had an AOL account, and I would send out emails. Hey, nice to meet you today. But I was 1 to 2 months in the rears of rent, and basically I felt a little embarrassed because the landlord probably was not so happy pleased with me. But eventually I did square up with all of my rent. Make that clear. I didn't run totally from it, just temporarily.
You just need a little time.
Yeah.
So, all right. So after the startup of the company, and you kind of you've been out networking, the company's starting to grow. Like, what was your first break, so to speak, as far as like your first kind of evolution of the company from being on a kitchen table to having a Connex box in the middle of a field? Because I remember that it was a Connex box, some
Oh,
hand tools. I
yeah,
think you had the used Daewoo orange skid steer. Remember that old machine with the foot pedals?
I do. So that was really the first warehouse of the company was a Connex box and in the middle of a kind of a field.
It was. I
And
remember it being overgrown.
it was pretty basic, right? So
Yeah,
but like let's say that when I got a chance to meet your dad, Gary, and Gary was running another small environmental company. We decided to put the two companies together
Yeah.
and merge. That
Yeah.
that was a big day, right? So Gary had a banking background, had some family ties to the environmental business,
Hmm.
and and we really just got together and really formed something special, I think. And from there, we did have our first big break together. And I'm going to say that this is probably the big break of the company, was to get involved with a very large petroleum spill here in Massachusetts down 2003 in Buzzards Bay. So
That's right.
that's 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So
I was a sophomore or a junior in high school. But I remember when that happened, you guys joined because I remember because I used to work for my dad when I was a little kid doing tanks and stuff. But
oh yeah,
I remember taking the Trident magnets that you had and putting them on the side of my father's green Expedition, the same vehicle that I used to put 275s into as a kid that he would take to dispose of and everything.
wow. Yeah, and I remember, that we talked about that last month when we interviewed you. That when I had met you when you were really young. So that's that's kind of like really a big breaking point. I think was getting involved with that, and then kind of from there, putting together some of our processes, the creation of like the use of daily worksheets, and um, whole bunch of other processes that we got involved here at the company. And
When
then from there we started getting into recruiting some core leadership and project managers here, and so that kind of all changed from about 2003 till today. We were in the field pretty much every day back then.
Yeah,
um
I remember those days very well. Do you remember what it felt like the very first time you purchased a brand new pickup truck? Because I remember you guys having used pickups. I remember we had like this maroon
oh
F-150 that you guys had bought used, and you
yeah,
had
we
this
call that the Barney Mobile. Yeah.
yeah, you had some my father's green Expedition. You guys had these vehicles, nothing matched, right? You go out to our fleet now, and it's a fleet, right? You have 40 whatever vehicles, and they're all red or white, and they've all got logos put on them. Like, so what did you feel a nice sense of accomplishment when you had your first like brand new vehicle that was purpose built for Trident?
Yeah, I remember doing that. We bought three new vehicles um, after that spill. They were Fords, right? So now we had uniform vehicles, and we actually gave some thought to the marketing and branding back then. So we said, okay, we're going to go with the red vehicles, and then so we had uniform vehicles, and they were very nice.
Yeah,
F two
they have
fifties and
perfectly
350s.
lettered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lettered up, and it just gave us a whole new look and a whole new feel, and they were very nice vehicles, right? So like today we've moved on to have a mix of both red and white vehicles.
Right. Well, that
um
was only because you couldn't find red vehicles, right? We
that's
couldn't
correct.
find them. There was not a single red pickup truck within, hundreds of miles of here that we could purchase. And, we see a lot of other companies utilize white vehicles as well as whatever their company colors are, right? But
Man,
it's a different animal now, right? You go out into the fleet, you got you literally have a fleet of vehicles, right? It is as new as 2023 models, right?
that's
But
right.
yeah, it's a different animal now, that's for sure.
So every day, and when I leave or come in the morning, there are some days that I have to pinch myself to like
Yeah.
even think that's a company that I founded. So
The
it's
thing
pretty cool.
the thing that gets me when I pull in or when I'm like whenever I'm like hutting around for like lunch or whatever, and I see the parking lot is filled, and there's like four empty spots, and you're like, oh man, we
Or
have designated visitor parking now.
we do, and if you get here a little bit later, if you have a meeting, a morning meeting someplace, and by the time you get here, there might not even be a parking spot for you, which is crazy. Like,
Which is something we haven't had to think about. Like, where do you have overflow for vehicles?
yeah, we're gonna have to maybe park in the
We're gonna have
street.
to think about that.
Yeah, so the future is bright, and we're having a lot of fun. And So partnering with you has just been amazing too, Patrick. I'll just
Thank you.
give you that. I know when your dad retired and you got involved with the business, you've been involved with the business a long time, but
Right.
when your dad retired, you really stepped up, and we're having a lot of fun together. So the future is bright for us, and hopefully we have some funny stories between now and
Yeah.
by the time maybe I get to retire. So
Yeah. We'll get there.
yeah.
So I think on that note, we'll probably wrap it up. Unless you've got any other funny stories you want to chuck in there.
No, that's pretty good. I'm not sure if we have any other funny stories to share with everybody in the future, but let's cut it to that right now. And
you and I might find our stories of sitting around a hotel room eating pizza and beet salads while we're writing quotes fun after we did a long day of work in the field, but it's not that great of a story.
but maybe we'll share some in the future.
Maybe.
But how about until next time, guys?
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.